Devin Vassell signed a 5-year, $146 million deal. But according to Hoops Hype, it's actually 5 years, $135 million guaranteed. The additional $11 million is bonuses that are factored into his contract. If he lives up to the bonuses, he can get an additional $11 million towards the end of his deal. So that's one thing to take in. Also, according to the credible website Spurs Talk, his contract is expected to take up a little bit less than 20% of the cap during the first year. And by the time the contract ends in 2029, it could end up taking less than 15% of the cap. So that's not bad, I would say. Excuse me. It's not bad at all. When you think about it's not taking up a great portion of the cap. When you look at that number, you would think it would take up at least half of the cap, but it shows you how the cap is rising, and along with a cap increase in size, you're going to see these astronomical deals where back in the day, I would say 10, 12 years ago, a player like Devin Vassell is probably getting something like a 5-year, $60 million deal. So this is kind of like the equivalent of like the new 5-year, $60 million deal. So these numbers are so gaudy, but they're going to be normalized pretty soon. It's just another sign of how the TV networks have so much money to throw around that these guys are going to make astronomical amounts of money that it's going to be ridiculously insane now when we see just second tier guys making the equivalent of what a max player like Curry signed up for like a few years ago. So that's something that's mind boggling, but I think it's important to realize that that's going to be the new normal. So when you look at it from that perspective, that this is not really a max deal, when you factor in the superstars in the league, their maxes are so much bigger, then this deal is not bad. I would say, granted, I do think he's still a little bit overpaid just when you look at his numbers, that for his career, he shot overall 42 from the field, 36 from three. So he's been shooting a little bit below average, I would say. For me, I need his overall field goal percentage to go up to 45. I'm a huge Spurs fan, so I watched Devin play. One thing I'll say is when he's on, he's on. That he's a very streaky player. When he's on, he can look like a Chris Middleton or Klay Thompson type of player when he's hitting his shots. But then he'll have his cold streaks where he's off. So it really depends on consistency when it comes to him. I think that's the typical thing young players struggle with when they're in the league. So hopefully he figures it out from a consistency angle. I would say at his best, when I've seen him play at his best, he reminds me of Allen Houston. For those of you who don't know, Allen Houston was a very good player for the New York Knicks during the late 90s, early 2000s. He had a great smooth jump shot. He was a great three-point shooter. I would say he was a second-tier star, not like a legit superstar, but he was very good. And in the Spurs case, if a Devin turns out to be like Allen Houston, well, that would be a great deal for them because they're not expecting to be a superstar. He's supposed to be a complementary player to Victor Wembanyama. So if he can provide that second option for them or even a third option, depending on how this plays out when they fully build this roster, this is going to be a good cornerstone for the Spurs. I think that's what the Spurs are hoping for, that he can just be a legit number 2 or number 3 guy in the future. The other thing I'm concerned about Devin is his knee problems. He had a torn meniscus, I believe, last year that needed to be repaired. So I'm guessing the Spurs feel very confident that the knee won't be an issue anymore. So hopefully it isn't. But I think right now, like I said before, he's a little bit overpaid. But if he can be efficient next year, if he can shoot at least around 45 overall from the field and keep his three-point percentage up like he did last year, which was 38%, then I think he'll live up to this deal and it'll be a great deal for the Spurs. I do think he's gonna be better this year simply because of all the attention Victor will bring. I think it should open up his game, so that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And as a Spurs fan, I'm excited. So hopefully we get to see some great stuff from him and Victor together. So that's all I have to say.